Welcome to Terrible Takes, where we discuss, review, and rank films. I have OCD, an unbearably large movie collection, and a shit ton of terrible takes. Today we are going to discuss and rank every film in the Halloween franchise. Number 13, Halloween Ends, directed by David Gordon Green. This is the 13th and latest entry into the Halloween franchise. And I feel like objectively, this isn't the worst movie in the franchise, but it definitely is the one that I like by far the least. At times, this film is visually gorgeous, and it has a captivating opening that really draws you in and an incredible bait and switch that you don't see coming, but it's all pretty much downhill from there. Michael Myers is barely in the film, and when he is, he's weak and injured. They chose to center this film around Corey, a character we don't know and frankly don't give a shit about. I don't like his performance in this film, and I don't really like any of the performances in this movie. And maybe that's unfair considering that the characters and their motivations are terribly written. They're just a complete 180 from where they were in the first two films. What really kills this film for me is the idea of the transference of evil. Halloween films have embraced magic and mysticism to varying degrees in the past. Some work for me, most of them do not. This falls into the latter category and steers the franchise squarely into the same position that we fought so hard to get away from. This film fails both as the ending to a trilogy and simply as a Halloween film. And though there are some small redeeming qualities, no Halloween film pisses me off more than this one, which is why this film lands at the very bottom. Number 12, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Directed by Joe Chappelle, this is the 6th entry into the franchise, and to me, this is a very bad film with little to no redeeming qualities. Now, visually, this film maintains like the late 80s, early 90s Halloween aesthetic that I actually like, and I do appreciate the connections it tries to make to the original film, especially as it pertains to Paul Rudd's role as Tommy Doyle. And the film does have a couple of interesting and brutal kills, which lifts it past Halloween Ends in my opinion. But everything else in this film is terrible and it reeks of late 90s horror cash grab. The Cult of Thorn just eviscerates any and every interesting thing that made Michael Myers compelling, terrifying, and interesting. And the presence of the Men in Black just underscores how lost in the woods this franchise is. Plus, when they reveal who the Men in Black is, it's like a twist from one of those Saw movies, but not one of the good ones, one of the absolutely terrible ones. Now, the performances in this film are widely lambasted, and though it is fun to see Paul Rudd in a Halloween film, we've seen him in much better.
So I'm really losing a lot of blood. You sound like you're from London.
And I don't even want to waste time talking about the convoluted incest baby plotline. God, dude, like if you haven't seen this film, just know that there is a convoluted baby incest plotline. And for the record, I just have to say this, I have seen both the theatrical and director's cut many times, and I think they are both very bad, equally bad. So The Curse of Michael Myers is a classic case of a franchise out of steam, grasping for straws in order to keep an IP alive. The film is so bad, it essentially spawns 3 separate reboots in an attempt to get the franchise back on track. Number 11, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Directed by Dominique Oppenin-Girard. I don't know if I pronounced that right. This is the 5th entry into the franchise. And to me, Halloween 5 is pretty much the same film as Halloween 6, just slightly better. I mean, it has the same issues, but because 5 doesn't have that convoluted baby incest plotline, it automatically is a better film. And Gedwell Harris, her presence in this film is definitely a highlight, but really the minimal inclusion of the Cult of Thorn and the Men in Black is this film's saving grace. The movie is still shit though. The psychic connection between Jamie and Michael felt very subtle and foreign, and it served the theme of that film, but in this film, it is just so spammed and ultimately raises more questions than it answers. This film also just feels like it lacks a protagonist. Loomis is doing Loomis things and Daniel Harris is watchable as ever, but the film just lacks a perspective and it ultimately feels aimless. Oh, and by the way, how could I forget about those Keystone Cops?
All clear. Nothing above, nothing below.
That's literally from the movie, and God is it terrible. Revenge of Michael Myers feels like a bad placeholder film that doesn't reinvent the wheel or take any risks, it merely exists. Offensive, but not as offensive as the other films lower on the list. Number 10, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, directed by Rob Zombie. This is the 10th entry into the franchise, and this is a bad film that I actually don't despise. It used to be at the very bottom of my list, but upon rewatch and reflection, it has slightly grown on me. First and foremost, it still feels like we're in the prime of Rob Zombie's filmmaking career, and as someone who likes his aesthetic, I don't hate seeing it in this film. And though the theme is explored chaotically, the film does have something interesting to say about trauma, PTSD, psychosis, and obsession. It explores these themes with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, but I do find it compelling nonetheless. But what really separates this film from the ones below it are the set pieces. I quite enjoy the final confrontation in that little shack, and the entire hospital sequence up top is so well done. With that being said, I am definitely one of those Halloween fans that hates the fact that the hospital sequence is a dream. Obviously, it speaks to her trauma, but it logically makes absolutely no sense, and it takes up entirely too much screen time for it not to be real or matter at all. I also just hate the characterizations in this film, and I'll speak more to that a little bit later. But what really devalues this film in my mind is how absent Michael Myers is. And even when he is in the film, he just doesn't feel like Michael Myers. Look, I applaud this film for diving deeper into the psyche of Michael Myers, and I appreciate this film does take risks. But those risks are, for the most part, terrible. And this film doesn't work as a Halloween film either in isolation or a continuation to Rob Zombie's first film. Number 9, Halloween Resurrection, directed by Rick Rosenthal. This is the 8th entry into the franchise, and this is where I probably will start to lose a lot of you because I know most people think this is the worst film in the franchise. But welcome to Terrible Takes. Just hear me out, I do not like this movie, but I don't hate it either. The inclusion of the webcam footage does afford a type of scare that we haven't seen in this franchise before, which I like. And though the story is absolutely absurd and downright stupid, I feel like the concept has aged weirdly well, especially in this kind of vast and depraved internet reality TV landscape that we live in. And though once again I admit that the concept is stupid, I appreciate that they didn't go back to the magical cult of Thorn or show us a bunch of men in black. And I also think this film has an odd, perverted amount of love and respect for Myers lore. But unfortunately, that is not enough because this movie is stupid. And even with those cool camera shots, the movie is hideous, and it leans on the worst of 90s horror tropes, both visually and tonally. It's also weirdly a continuation of H2O. Yes, I call Halloween 20 H2O.
And that's what I call high quality H2O.
But it doesn't actually continue that story. It doesn't look or feel like a sequel. And it basically goes away everything that was good or compelling about that film, and it just starts from scratch. And of course, it has the worst and most disgusting opening to any Halloween movie. Just utterly disrespectful to Laurie Strode and to all the amazing work that went into H2O. So though terrible, ugly, and you guessed it, stupid, I do have fun with this film. It's a guilty pleasure for sure, and I enjoy watching Michael kill a diverse cast of assholes for an hour and a half, even if it is void of any logic, more, or story. Number 8, Halloween 3. Directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. This is the 3rd entry into the franchise, and though I don't love this film, this is the first film on the list that I will go ahead and say this is a good film. This is a watchable film. Now, the film is not scary at all, and that's not something you want to hear when talking about a Halloween franchise film. Now, obviously, this was not designed to be a Michael Myers film. I also just don't think the movie is as interesting or as moody as the first 2 Halloween films, and it lacks rewatchability. Unfortunately, it just isn't compelling, and clearly it wasn't compelling enough to jumpstart Carpenter's anthology series. Removing the fact that Michael Myers infamously is not in this film, the film is very competently made. Nothing about this film to me is actually bad. The performances are great, in my opinion, and the film maintains a kind of similar aesthetic to the first two movies. And at times, the experience is fun, especially when it leans into the spooky season vibes. It gives you a successful dose of Halloween nostalgia, and like the best films on this list, it makes you want to trick or treat. Everybody knows that John Carpenter wanted to make Halloween an anthology film series, and though this film is boring at times and far from a masterpiece, it is an interesting story that shows the promise of the anthology premise and how varied but interconnected these films all can have been. This is a fun and watchable film to get into the spooky season, but a disappointing follow-up to the first two Halloween films, and unfortunately isn't the most compelling film in its own right. Number 7, Halloween Tales, directed by David Gordon Green. This is the 12th entry to the franchise, and like Halloween 3, this is another disappointing but completely watchable film in the franchise. Now, this film doesn't really need to exist, and that's probably why it's so bad. It feels like empty calories. The story is pretty non-existent, and it feels like we could have just jumped straight from Halloween 2018 to Halloween Ends without missing a single beat. What is here, narratively speaking, is pretty stupid and lacks any real thoughtfulness or subtlety. It just bashes you over the head with themes and plot points that are good in theory, but terribly executed. I mean, just lazy. And this film is just spinning its wheels. It feels like a decent filler episode of anime. It's good, but still filler. Nothing makes Guy clear from the sidelining of Laurie Strode. Having her in this film to do nothing is frankly criminal. However, the film is visually striking. I love this movie visually, and there are a couple of key moments from a composition standpoint that really stand out. And I just love Michael Myers and the way that he's portrayed in David Gordon Green's first two Halloween films. And he looks especially cool in this film with his burnt mask. But what really sets this film apart from some of the other films below it are the kills. There are a couple of creative depths here that just really stand out. I mean, like all-time Halloween franchise moments. And it really sucks when I watch this film because it shows me what this film and franchise could have been. Ultimately, this is a fun, enjoyable, but inconsequential entry that does nothing but tread water. It simply exists to milk the cash cow that is the Halloween franchise. Number 6, Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, directed by Rob Zombie. This is the 9th entry into the franchise, and this is an interesting one because the things that work for me in this film are also the things that prevent me from accidentally loving this film. The original Halloween feeds off suspense, the slow building of tension. This film trades all that in for gore, shot, and awe, and it really feels like a portrayal of what Halloween is about. But at the same time, that brutality is awesome. It's visceral, it's well done, and it unlocks a new shade of Myers that we haven't seen before. And it honestly informs the Michael Myers we got in the David Gordon Green trilogy. Rob Zombie also opted to give us more of an origin story and spends way too much time with young Michael and his family. The more we learn about Michael, the more trauma he has, the more we see his face, the more humanized he is, the less scary he is. But there are a couple of really cool origin plot points that I like. For example, Michael's fascination with masks from an early age is cool. And in terms of an ensemble, I mean, Zombie shit the bed here. I mean, he butchered all of these characters. Laurie, Loomis, Brackett, they just feel so different from their 1978 counterparts. And it begs the question, why not just tell a new story with new characters to go with all this new lore? But at the same time, it does feel refreshing to see how someone like Rob Zombie can tell the exact same story but flip it on its head. So although this film gets so much wrong about both the Halloween franchise and Michael Myers, but it does it in a way that I find entertaining and actually respect. Number 5, Halloween H20, 20 years later, or as I like to call it, Halloween H2O. Directed by Steve Miner, this is the 7th film in the franchise. And now that we are in the top 5, I can safely say that I love all of the films that remain. And it's hard for me to rank them, especially in this one, but for now, H2O will have to sit tight at number 5. I really don't have a lot of complaints when it comes to this film. I guess I do miss Haddonfield as a location. Suburbia is such an important setting of this franchise, and having this take place at a school, especially a school devoid of any children or families, takes away from the underlying danger that is present in most of the other films. And we haven't talked about it yet, but in Halloween 2, it is established that Laurie and Michael are siblings. Now, obviously, depending on what Halloween film you're watching, that may be the case or it may not be, but I really don't like that they continued that idea in this film. And lastly, I just don't think that Michael looks good in this film whatsoever. I feel like every film he looks and acts differently, and some work, some don't, but this is one of my least favorite Michaels. But everything else is really functioning very well in this film. The reappearance of Laurie Strode is much needed and well executed. I love Laurie Strode's development in this film. The new beginning that she has achieved for herself and her family feels authentic, inspirational, and honestly better than what we got in Halloween 2018. To me, it feels like a good representation of how we process trauma and how we keep fighting. And in terms of the cast, I'm into it. Josh Hartnett is great. Michelle Williams has a fun little role here. She's having a great time. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a funny cameo in the opening. And I even like LL Cool J. He's believable to me. It works. And even though I do miss the suburbia, I do like the boarding school locale. The vibes are just great. And there's something so jarring about seeing a crazed killer stalking the halls of academia. And by the way, the ending is just epic, chef's kiss. This was the first attempt to sort of retcon, reboot the franchise, and it's great. And though it has a couple of flaws, the good far outweighs the bad, resulting in a fulfilling experience that could have served as a great ending to the franchise, or at least a decent springboard to keep going with new characters. Number 4, Halloween 4. Directed by Dwight H. Little, Halloween 4 is probably the Halloween film I rewatched the most outside of the original. And to me, it is one of the most underrated slasher films of all time. Now, Michael does not look great in this film, and unfortunately, this movie doesn't have a plethora of memorable kills. But his presence is large and looming. This film does have a protagonist issue. It splits time between Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd and Ellie Cornell as her sister Rachel. I just don't think either of them can actually carry the film, and I don't like how this film connects to the first film. Laurie Strode having a daughter and dying just feels wrong, but this film has incredible spooky season vibes. The opening credits are just legendary to me, and the use of both music and silence throughout the film to display the fall in the suburban Midwest, it just gives you so many Halloween spooky vibes, which is why I keep rewatching this over and over. And I love Loomis in this film and the way that he's tracking down breadcrumbs. This feels like the last time where Loomis felt real to me before he kind of went off the deep end and became a full caricature of himself. And one small but really cool thing I like is seeing Michael with the mask made of bandages. If you can't tell, I'm a huge fan of masks both in general and in this franchise. And I love Danielle Harris in this film. I feel like she is such a defining character of Halloween, of this franchise, for a whole generation. I also love that the final act of this film takes place in a school. I feel like this franchise is always flirting with using schools as set pieces. And I'm happy to see it here. This film also depicts mob mentality, and even though it isn't executed in a particularly complex way, I do love how this film shows paranoia in terms of a lynch mob and the appearances of other Michaels. It just feels like a cleaner way to display this than what we saw in Halloween Kills. And this film also attempts to introduce the transference of evil, the idea that was fully explored in Halloween Ends, but this film does it in a way that feels surprising and fun and tasteful. So though not an absolutely triumphant return to Michael Myers after Season of the Witch, this film provides an interesting and novel ideas, new characters, some fun set pieces, and more than enough spooky vibes to earn its spot at number 4. It's just unfortunate that this film is a part of the Thorn trilogy. Number 3, Halloween 2, directed by Rick Rosenthal. This is the second film in the franchise, and Halloween 2 is a near-perfect film with a major fatal flaw, and you know what it is. If this is your connection, the reveal that Maury and Michael are siblings is not only the worst part of this film by far, but probably the worst thing to happen to this franchise. It split the franchise into so many different directions. The franchise just never ever recovered from that. Other than that, the film doesn't really have any big issues. If I had to nitpick, I would say the film feels limited in scope compared to the first, considering the whole thing takes place essentially in one location. And the fact that this is a continuation in real time of the first film kind of strains belief. With that being said, Michael Myers is also incredible. He's just awesome. The kills are incredible, awesome, creative, violent. The mask is really, really cool, especially when he has the blood tears. And though this film is limited to one location, it is a great location that gives you so many different things that you can do. The tone and feel of this film also feels so in line with the first film in a way that really just makes you want to keep watching. This film made a decision that essentially ruined the entire franchise, throwing it into chaos with endless narrative loopholes, retcons, and reboots. But other than that crazy thing, this is an incredible film and a worthy sequel to the original film. Number 2, Halloween 2018, directed by David Gordon Green. This is the 11th entry into the franchise, and I've heard mixed things about this film, so maybe this is a terrible take, but I love this movie. Now, it's not perfect. It has a couple of things that I would go on to say are horrendous. For example, Dr. Sartain acting as a Kroger Loomis was just a terrible, terrible choice. There are a couple of moments where the dialogue is so awkward.
Did you invite grandmother like you said you would?
And even though I do love seeing Laurie Strode in this film, and I think that Jamie Lee Curtis does a great job, her character actions seem like an overcorrection, and it's not as good as what we end up getting in Halloween H2O. With that being said, everything else works so well. The film is funny, scary, suspenseful, and gory all at the same time. This is my favorite portrayal of Michael Myers in any Halloween film, especially physically. I love how just brutal he is. And I loved how he was just introduced. The opening is just incredible. And seeing him get the mask back is even better. I mean, holy moly, I love it. The movie has incredible kills, great set pieces. The ending is incredible and fits with the characters that they presented to us. And I just feel like this movie wouldn't been the perfect end to the franchise. So though there are a couple of huge things to look past, these things are overshadowed by just how right everything else is in this movie. Number 1, Halloween, directed by John Carpenter. This is the first entry in the franchise. And is there any surprise this is the film that started it all? I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this film because everybody has seen this film. I just think this film is perfect. Michael Myers is the personification of evil. The exploration of what is evil, what makes something evil, just works so well. The cinematography, the framing, the cast is pitch perfect. The look and feel is something that we're still trying to recreate today. The suspense is top notch. The kills are great, especially for an early slasher film that basically invented the genre. The ending is spectacular. I mean, everything works about this movie. If I had to nitpick something, it would be that Michael Myers takes off his mask for a split second. I just hate that. Other than that one terrible decision, this movie is perfect. This is not only the best film of the franchise, it is the film that cemented the slasher genre, and it is also my personal favorite horror film and one of the greatest films of all time. Let me know what you think about my terrible takes in the comments, and please feel free to share your terrible takes. Until then, have fun celebrating the night that evil came home.